Welcome to the Restful Night Library. I'm Mira Heart. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let tonight's story carry you gently into rest. The Lavender Bath. Warm water flowed steadily into the deep porcelain tub beneath the small window, where evening rain rested against the glass in soft silver threads that caught the glow from a single lamp beside the sink. The bathroom walls held the quiet warmth of late night, still carrying faint heat from the day, and steam drifted upward through the dim room in pale, slow folds. A small bowl of dried lavender rested upon the wooden shelf near the bath, its scent already beginning to rise gently into the warm, damp air before the water had even finished filling the tub. Outside, rain moved softly along the roof and through the dark garden leaves below the window. The room remained still. Beside the bath stood a folded white robe draped across the back of a low wooden chair, its sleeves hanging loosely in the amber lamplight. The floor beneath it held the deep warmth of woven bath mats, thick enough to soften every step, while the scent of lavender and clean linen drifted quietly through the room. Beyond the window, the garden had nearly disappeared into rain darkness, now that the last traces of evening had gone from the sky, leaving only the soft outline of wet leaves against the glass. Steam continued to gather above the bathwater in slow, pale clouds. Nothing asked to be hurried. A small handful of lavender buds had scattered beside the bowl upon the shelf. Their pale purple faded softly with time and dried warmth. The scent near them carried something gentle and earthy beneath the sweetness, like warm cloth stored in cedar drawers through long, quiet seasons. A single bead of water slid down the side of the porcelain tub and disappeared soundlessly onto the mat below. The rain beyond the window kept its low, even rhythm against the roof and leaves. Warmth gathered deeper within the room. Near the sink, small glass bottles rested neatly upon a narrow tray beside a folded washcloth, and a candle burned low enough for wax to pool softly around the wick. Its flame moved only slightly whenever warmth from the bath water shifted through the air, and the light from it rested gently across the pale tile walls in slow, dim patterns. The mirror above the sink had begun to cloud along the edges beneath the steam, softening every reflection inside the room. Outside, rain continued steadily through the garden. Indoors, the bath held its warmth. The lavender floated quietly upon the surface of the water now. Some blossoms gathered near the edges of the tub, while others drifted slowly through the steam in small clusters of pale purple. Their scent deepened as warmth rose from the water, spreading softly through the room until even the folded robe near the chair seemed touched by it. The sound of rain beyond the glass had become softer now that the room itself held so much warmth and steam together. Nothing remained sharp here. The evening had settled fully into night. Along the window pane, small drops of condensation gathered and slid downward in slow, uneven paths beside the rain outside. The garden beyond had faded into soft darkness, entirely except where the lamp glow brushed faintly against wet leaves nearest the house. Steam drifted upward in pale, quiet folds from the bath and gathered beneath the ceiling before thinning again into the dim room. The candle beside the sink burned steadily, its glow low and amber against the clouded mirror. The room felt close in the best way, held gently between warmth and rain. The water in the bath no longer moved, except for the faintest ripple now and then beneath drifting lavender buds. Heat lingered along the porcelain sides and within the steam-heavy air above, where the scent of lavender had grown deeper and softer with each passing minute. Somewhere beyond the bathroom walls, the rest of the house had gone completely quiet. Only rain and water remained. Rain upon the garden leaves, water resting warm beneath the steam. The robe beside the chair had gathered warmth from the room itself, its thick cotton folds soft in the dim amber light. A small shadow from the candle flickered gently across the sleeves whenever steam shifted through the air between the flame and the wall. Along the sink, the glass bottles rested untouched beside the folded cloth, their shapes softened now by the mist along the mirror. The room held the slow stillness that arrives only late at night, when every sound grows quiet beneath warm water and rain. The lavender drifted lazily near the edge of the tub, brushing once against the porcelain before floating slowly back toward the center of the water. Steam rose around it in pale folding layers that blurred the room into softer shapes, lamp glow and candlelight melting gently into shadow along the corners of the ceiling. The rain outside no longer sounded distant. It seemed close now, wrapped around the house and garden in one steady hush. And the night was quiet, quiet and warm, warm and slow. The candle had burned lower beside the sink, where wax pooled thickly around its base in pale, uneven rings. Its flame no longer cast sharp light across the room, but rested low against the clouded mirror and pale tile walls where steam drifted slowly upward through the dim glow. The bath water remained warm beneath the floating lavender, holding heat deep within the porcelain tub, while the rain continued softly beyond the window. Nothing changed quickly here. The room only softened. Warmth lingered along the skin of the water and within the steam-filled air above it, where the scent of lavender rested quietly against every breath. The robe beside the chair remained folded and still. The towel near the sink held the faint scent of soap and warm cotton. Beyond the clouded glass, rain moved steadily through leaves darkened by night. The room had grown very still. The last of the steam gathered in pale folds near the ceiling before slowly thinning into the dark corners of the room. Water rested quietly beneath the drifting lavender, no longer rippling, only holding warmth within its deep, still surface. The candle beside the sink burned low and steady, while the mirror reflected nothing clearly now except soft amber light and moving steam. Outside, rain continued through the sleeping garden, low and even. The robe had been drawn close now, its warm cotton folds carrying traces of lavender and steam from the bath-filled room. Floorboards beyond the doorway held a softer warmth beneath bare feet, while the quiet house beyond remained dark except for one dim bedside lamp glowing low against the bedroom wall. Fresh linen rested cool and smooth across the bed beneath the open blankets, waiting in the same quiet stillness that had filled the bath and candlelit room before it. Rain moved softly against the windows of the house. The night continued. Near the bedside lamp sat a small ceramic dish holding a few remaining lavender buds beside a closed book whose pages had already gathered the faint scent from the room. The lamp glow rested softly across the blankets and pillowcases, turning white cotton pale gold beneath the dim shade. Outside, the rain had eased into a finer, softer sound against the roof and garden leaves beyond the darkened windows. The whole house seemed wrapped inside that quiet weather. Warm and close, the sheets held gentle coolness where the room air touched them, though warmth gathered quickly beneath the blankets, drawn softly upward through the dark. Lavender lingered faintly upon the robe draped nearby and within the loose strands of steam-softened air still resting around the room. The bedside lamp glowed low beside the closed book and ceramic dish. Rain moved steadily through the night beyond the glass. Nothing more remained to be done. The warm bath water rested quietly within the porcelain tub. Lavender floated softly beneath the fading candle glow. Rain crossed the dark garden beyond the misted bathroom glass. The house had settled fully into night beneath the soft sound of weather. The bedside lamp burned low beside fresh linen and folded cotton. Rain moved gently beyond the windows of the quiet sleeping house. Warmth lingered softly within blankets and lavender-scented air through the deep night. The lamp at Tide House. Rain moved down the old glass in long, soft lines, bending the light from the harbor lamps into pale gold streaks that trembled on the walls of Tide House. The room nearest the water held the deep warmth of stone that had kept the day's heat, and a low fire rested in the grate, with slow red folds beneath the ash. Outside, the tide had gone far out across the dark flats, leaving only the faint wash of water beyond the reeds, steady and low beneath the rain. Evening had already settled into the harbor by the time the lamps were lit along the quay, and now nothing moved there except the soft shift of reflected light upon wet stone. The room stayed still. At the far end of the house, a narrow stair curved toward a loft beneath the roof beams, where folded quilts rested at the foot of a small bed beside the chimney wall. The scent of rain and wood smoke drifted through the warm dark together, mingling with the faint salt carried inland from the harbor below. Somewhere beneath the floorboards, old timber gave a slow, quiet creak as the wind moved around the outside corners of the house, though even the wind had begun to ease now that night had deepened over the shore. The lamp beside the chair near the fire burned with a low amber glow, soft against the stone walls, and the whole house seemed to breathe in that same calm rhythm. Nothing asked to be done. Near the hearth, a kettle rested upon the iron hook above the coals, giving off the smallest sound now and then. Not yet a boil, only a faint stir of heat within the metal. The fire beneath it had settled into its oldest stage, where the wood no longer cracked or sparked, but folded inward slowly upon itself, red at the center and dark at the edges. Warmth lay low across the floorboards and gathered beneath the chair by the lamp, where the woven blanket over its arm had kept the day's heat inside its heavy wool. Beyond the window, rain continued in its patient way, touching roof slate and harbor stone with the same soft hand. The night remained close around the house. A shelf beside the chimney held small things that rarely moved from their places: a blue cup with a faint chip along the rim, a brass clock whose ticking had grown soft with age, a row of smooth white shells gathered long ago from the edge of the flats at low tide. Dust rested lightly along the wood there, untouched except where the lamp glow brushed across it. The shells caught that dim light and held it for a moment before letting it go again, pale against the dark grain of the shelf. Nothing in the room seemed newly placed. Everything belonged exactly where it had settled over time. Outside, rain moved softly through the reeds. Further into the evening, the harbor sounds grew fewer still. Earlier, now and then, a rope had tapped against a mast somewhere along the quay, but even that small sound had faded into the larger quiet of the weather. The gulls had long since folded themselves into the dark spaces beneath the pier roof, and the tide, still low beyond the flats, reached the shore only in long distant breaths. The house remained wrapped in the warm scent of smoke and rain-damp wool, while the lamp beside the chair burned lower and softer as the oil settled. Along the stone hearth, heat lingered like something stored there through many evenings before this one. The room held its warmth without effort. From the loft above came the faint muffled sound of the roof taking rain, gentler there beneath the slope of old slate. The blankets folded on the bed had the deep weight of winter cloth, thick and soft from years of use, and the pillow near the chimney wall carried a trace of lavender, dried long ago and tucked beneath the linen. A small draught moved once through the upper room, cool against the floorboards, then faded as the fire below breathed warmth upward through the stone. The night beyond the roof remained hidden entirely now, all harbor and shore folded into rain darkness beyond the lamp glow. The house rested quietly inside it. Near midnight, the kettle gave one final small murmur and fell still again as the fire settled lower beneath it. Ash shifted inward upon the coals with a slow sighing sound, soft enough to almost disappear beneath the rain. The room no longer held sharp edges. Chair, shelf, hearth, and window seemed to soften together inside the low amber light, their shapes growing gentle against the stone walls. And the rain was quiet, quiet and low, low and warm against the roof and glass. The lamp beside the chair burned steadily, though its glow no longer reached the far corners of the room. There, darkness rested softly beneath the beams, deep and still, while warmth gathered close around the hearthstones and drifted upward toward the loft above. The shells upon the shelf had gone pale as moonlit bone in the dim light, and the brass clock ticked with such softness now that its sound blended into the room itself. The harbor beyond the window had vanished into rain and dark entirely, though the tide still breathed somewhere far out past the reeds. Slow and steady, steady and slow. Upstairs, the blankets upon the bed had begun to warm where the chimney heat moved gently through the wall beside them. The pillow sank softly beneath its own weight, holding the shape of rest before rest had even come. Along the roof, rain slipped downward in thin, winding trails, each one joining another until the whole roof seemed wrapped in a single soft wash of sound. The wind had fallen almost completely now. Only rain remained. Rain and warmth and the deep quiet of the house beside the tide flats. The fire had burned inward to its deepest red, where heat no longer showed itself brightly, but lived low beneath the ash in slow, steady folds. Now and then, one small ember shifted, sending a dim pulse through the grate, before settling once more into stillness. The chair beside the lamp held its blanket in the same loose curve as before, untouched, warm from the fire that had watched over it all evening long. Nothing changed quickly here. The room only grew softer, softer and still. Outside, the tide had begun its slow return across the flats, though the water moved too far away to see in the dark. Its sound reached the house only as a faint hush beneath the rain, a broad, quiet breathing that rose and faded and rose again. The reeds along the shore bent once beneath the damp night wind, then settled back into place. The harbor lamps beyond the quay had dimmed behind rain-wet glass. Each glow softened into pale circles along the dark edge of town. The night continued, quiet and deep. Warmth remained close to the hearthstones. The lamp glow rested low upon the floorboards, turning the grain of the wood soft gold where it touched. Rain moved along the window glass in slow threads that joined and parted without sound. The shelf beside the chimney still held its pale shells and blue cup beneath a thin veil of shadow. Everything stayed where it had long belonged. The room held the same gentle shape it had held all evening, though now the edges of things seemed farther away, blurred softly into warmth and dark. The fire no longer showed flame, only the deep red hush beneath the ash. The kettle above it rested silent and still. Somewhere in the house, old wood gave one slow creak, then settled again into quiet, and the rain kept on upon the roof, low and even. The lamp beside the chair glowed softly through the dim room, its light folding across the woven blanket and the warm stones of the hearth. Beyond the glass, the harbor had disappeared entirely into rain darkness, though the tide still moved slowly through the flats beyond the reeds. The same low hush returned again and again from the shore, each breath of water softer than the last. The house remained close around it all. Warm ash lay deep within the grate. Warm wool rested over the chair arm. Warm stone held the day's last heat beneath the lamp glow. Outside, rain moved softly through the dark, and the reeds bent gently beneath the night wind before growing still once more. Still and warm. The room had grown very quiet now. The shelf by the chimney remained pale beneath the dim light. The shells rested where they always had. The old clock kept its soft, slow ticking beneath the hush of rain upon the roof. Nothing had ended. The night simply continued around the harbor and the tide flats and the old stone house near the reeds. Rain crossed the glass in slow silver lines. The lamp burned low beside the warm hearthstones. Deep night held the harbor in its soft, dark hush. Warm rain and low fire held the house through the long night. The Cedar Room. The fire had already burned low into deep orange folds beneath the cedar logs by the time night settled fully around the cabin, and now each quiet crackle beneath the stone hearth seemed softer than the one before. Outside the tall windows, snow drifted slowly through dark pine branches that leaned close around the house, their shapes blurred gently by frost gathering along the edges of the glass. A thick wool blanket rested across the wide chair nearest the fire, its woven surface warmed through by long hours beside the hearth. The room carried the scent of cedar smoke and old pine wood floors that had stored winter warmth deep within their grain. Nothing moved except the firelight. Along the far wall stood shelves lined with books whose cloth covers had faded softly with time, their edges touched dimly by the amber lamp glowing beside the chair. The lampshade cast low, warm light across the room and turned the nearby wood walls honey gold against the dark corners beyond. Snow continued quietly outside, touching roof beams and window ledges with the same patient stillness that had settled over the cabin itself. Evening had already slipped far into night, and now the whole room seemed held gently between firelight and falling snow. The air remained still. A black iron kettle rested near the edge of the hearth where the heat had warmed the metal until faint ticking sounds rose softly now and then from within it. Beside the chair, a ceramic mug sat half full upon a low wooden table, carrying the lingering scent of chamomile tea mixed with cedar smoke and cool winter air drifting faintly through the seams of the old windows. The steam above the tea had nearly vanished now, though warmth still rested deep within the clay cup. Outside, snow brushed lightly through the pine branches. Near the hearthstones, small curls of ash shifted inward whenever the cedar logs settled more deeply into the coals. The sound remained low and unhurried, gentle enough to blend almost entirely into the larger hush filling the room. Firelight moved softly across the woven blanket draped over the chair, brightening the wool for a moment before letting it fade once more into shadow. The floorboards beneath the rug had gathered warmth through the evening and held it close beneath the thick woven fibers. The cabin rested quietly within the storm-dark woods. A pine cone basket near the hearth held kindling gathered earlier in the season, each dry cedar strip pale gold in the dim firelight. Their resin scent lingered faintly beneath the richer smoke from the fire itself, warm and earthy against the colder smell drifting through the frosted windows from outside. One small cedar branch had slipped loose beside the basket and rested quietly upon the floorboards, its needles dark green against the honey-brown wood. Snow moved steadily beyond the glass. Indoors, the fire breathed softly. The windows nearest the chair had clouded slightly now from the warmth gathered inside the cabin, softening the pine woods beyond into dark, still shapes beneath the falling snow. From time to time, a heavier cluster of snow slipped gently from a branch outside and disappeared soundlessly beyond the lower edge of the glass. The lamp beside the chair glowed steadily against the wood-paneled walls, while the fire settled deeper into red-orange folds within the stone hearth. Nothing in the room seemed newly placed. Everything belonged to winter evenings beside the fire. Warmth rested heavily now along the blanket draped over the chair, where thick wool folds held the heat rising steadily from the hearthstones nearby. The cedar logs had burned inward until flame no longer rose high above them, but glowed lower and deeper through the coals beneath. A faint thread of smoke scent drifted upward through the room and mingled softly with chamomile tea and pinewood walls warmed through by firelight. Outside, snow continued in its slow, downward way through the dark woods, quiet and deep. The clock upon the mantel gave soft measured ticks beneath the crackle of cedar and the hush of winter weather against the roof. Its brass pendulum moved gently behind clouded glass, catching the lamp glow now and then before fading once more into shadow. Along the shelves nearby, book spines and folded maps rested untouched in the dim amber light, their edges softened by warmth and late-night stillness. The whole cabin had grown smaller in the best way, held close by snow and fire together. Near the windows, frost had begun spreading in pale feathered lines along the corners of the glass, silver white against the darkness beyond. Firelight reflected faintly within those frozen patterns and turned them gold for brief moments whenever the cedar logs shifted softly within the hearth. The woods outside no longer seemed separate tree by tree, but one dark, quiet shape beneath the storm. Indoors, warmth lingered deeply through the chair, rug, shelves, and pine-paneled walls, and the fire was low and warm, warm and still. The kettle near the hearth no longer ticked now that its heat had settled evenly through the iron. Beside it, the ceramic mug rested quiet upon the table, where the last traces of tea warmth remained hidden within the clay. The room had softened fully into late-night shapes and muted colors beneath lamp glow and cedar coals. Nothing remained sharp here. Even the shadows along the rafters above the chair seemed wrapped gently within the warmth rising from the fire. The cedar logs folded inward another small measure beneath the ash, releasing one brief wash of sparks that dimmed almost immediately into red beneath the grate. Heat drifted slowly upward through the room and gathered along the ceiling beams before spreading softly downward once more. The blanket over the chair arm had begun to sink under its own weight toward the floorboards, its edges glowing dimly where firelight touched the wool. Outside, snow moved through the pine woods without sound. The night continued, quiet and slow. Warmth rested close around the hearthstones now, deepest near the glowing coals where the cedar had burned through long evening hours into folds of dark orange and soft red. The lamp beside the chair cast only enough light to shape the nearest shelves and blanket, leaving the farther corners of the cabin wrapped fully in shadow. Beyond the frosted windows, snow drifted steadily downward through the dark trees. The room held its silence gently. The fire had reached its oldest stage, where flame no longer mattered and only heat remained beneath ash and cedar wood. Coals glowed softly within the grate, breathing warmth through the stone hearth and along the woven rug before the chair. The pine-paneled walls held that warmth deeply now, while the windows rested pale beneath frost and snow-dark glass. The cabin seemed to breathe slowly around the fire, slow and still. A faint cedar scent lingered through the room, woven softly into wool blankets, pine shelves, old paper pages, and warm winter air. The mug upon the table remained untouched beside the chair, while the kettle rested dark against the hearthstones nearby. Firelight moved gently through the frost patterns along the windows before fading once more into shadow. Snow continued quietly through the woods. Nothing changed quickly. The lamp glow had grown softer now, dim amber against the chair and nearby shelves. Coals settled low within the hearth, their heat deep and steady beneath pale ash. Outside, snow moved among the pine branches beyond the frosted windows. The whole cabin rested quietly within the winter night. Warm cedar coals glowed low beneath the stone arch of the hearth. Frost rested softly upon the window glass beside drifting snow. The blanket near the fire held the room's warmth close through the deep, still night. The fire burned low beside warm wool and dark winter windows. The marble bath. Rain moved softly across the tall bathroom windows, turning the garden lights beyond the glass into pale, blurred circles beneath the dark spring night. At the center of the room stood a deep claw-foot porcelain bathtub upon white marble tile, its curved edges glowing softly beneath the low amber light from a shaded lamp near the sink. Steam rose slowly from the water in pale, drifting folds, carrying the scent of lavender oil and warm soap through the quiet air. Outside, rain rested gently upon leaves and stone pathways below the windows. Indoors, warmth gathered close around the bath and marble walls. Nothing disturbed the stillness. Beside the tub rested a wooden stool holding folded towels, thick with warmth from the nearby radiator, their cotton fibers soft beneath the lamplight and faintly scented with lavender and clean linen. Along the far wall, pale curtains hung loosely beside the rain-dark windows, moving only slightly whenever cool air drifted inward through the narrow opening near the glass. Evening had long since deepened into night, and now the room seemed enclosed, gently within steam, rainfall, and the quiet glow of amber light upon marble. The water remained still. A silver tray near the edge of the tub held a small dish of bath salts, whose pale grains shimmered faintly whenever the lamp glow shifted across the porcelain curves nearby. Beside them rested a soft natural sponge, still damp from warm water, carrying the faint, clean scent of olive soap and lavender oil. Tiny droplets clung to the silver faucet above the bath and caught the amber light before sliding quietly downward into the steaming water below. Outside, rain moved softly through dark garden branches. The marble floor beneath the bath had gathered warmth from the room itself, holding gentle heat beneath bare feet and along the curved iron feet of the porcelain tub. Fine gray veins within the stone drifted softly beneath the dim light, like faded ink beneath water. Their patterns blurred further wherever steam gathered close above the floor. The room gave only the smallest sounds now and then, the quiet settling of water within the bath, the soft rustle of curtains beside the windows, the steady hush of rain upon leaves outside. Nothing felt hurried here. Near the sink rested small glass bottles of oil and cream, arranged neatly upon a pale stone tray beside folded washcloths and a candle burning low within a frosted holder. The flame moved gently beneath the rising steam and cast slow, shifting light across the mirror above the sink, where the glass had begun clouding softly around the edges. Reflections within the room no longer appeared sharp, now that warmth and mist had settled over every surface. Indoors, the marble walls held the glow of candlelight and steam. The bath water carried deep warmth through the porcelain tub, where steam drifted upward in quiet pale layers that folded softly against the windows and mirror. Lavender floated faintly within the air itself now, woven through cotton towels, candle smoke, and rain-cooled drafts moving gently near the curtains. Beyond the glass, the garden had faded almost entirely into darkness, except for the soft blur of rain-touched lanterns along the stone paths below. The room seemed smaller now in the best way, wrapped gently within warmth and weather. One corner of the folded towel nearest the bath had slipped loose from the stool and brushed softly against the marble floor, where candlelight moved slowly across the cotton weave in dim amber waves. Nearby, small circles of water gathered beneath the porcelain rim and cooled quietly upon the stone tiles before fading into the larger warmth of the room. The silver faucet above the bath no longer dripped now that the water had settled fully within the tub. Outside, rain kept its steady rhythm against leaves and window glass. The candle beside the sink had burned lower, its light softer now against the steam-clouded mirror and pale marble walls. Warmth drifted gently upward from the bath water and gathered beneath the ceiling where the air held the scent of lavender and clean soap close around the room. The folded towels near the radiator remained thick with stored heat, their cotton edges glowing dimly beneath the amber lamp. The night beyond the windows had gone fully dark. Along the edge of the porcelain tub, small ripples moved slowly through the water before fading once more into stillness. Steam drifted upward in pale folding layers that softened every shape within the room. Marble walls, silver faucet, glass bottles, candle flame, and curtains near the windows. Outside, rain moved quietly through garden branches, no longer visible beyond the misted glass, and the room was warm, warm and low, low and still. The mirror above the sink reflected only dim portions of the room now, softened entirely by steam and amber light. Candle glow rested faintly along the porcelain curves of the clawfoot bath, while shadows gathered gently near the corners of the marble floor. The silver tray beside the tub remained untouched beneath the drifting steam. Nothing asked to be done here. The room simply held warmth within itself. The bath water had begun to cool slightly near the surface, while deeper warmth remained gathered within the porcelain basin beneath drifting steam. A faint lavender scent lingered through the towels and marble air, woven softly into candle smoke and rain-cooled drafts near the windows. Beyond the glass, water crossed the garden lanterns in long silver lines that bent the light into blurred, pale shapes. The room had grown quieter still. The radiator near the wall gave off one soft ticking sound as warmth moved through old metal pipes beneath the marble floor. Beside it, folded towels rested thick and heavy upon the wooden stool, their cotton warmth held close within the dim room. Steam drifted lazily above the clawfoot tub and gathered near the ceiling before thinning slowly into shadow. Outside, rain continued through the sleeping garden, low and steady. Warm water rested quietly within the porcelain bath now, no longer shifting except for the faintest ripple near the silver faucet, where steam curled gently upward through the amber glow. Candlelight softened along the marble walls and reflected dimly within the clouded mirror above the sink. The towels near the radiator remained untouched beside the stool. The room breathed quietly around warmth and rain. The clawfoot tub held its deep warmth beneath the pale, drifting steam. Lavender lingered softly through the marble room and folded towels nearby. Rain crossed the tall windows in slow silver lines against the darkened garden below. Nothing changed quickly now. The night simply deepened around the bath. A soft glow remained upon the porcelain curves beside the candlelit mirror. The silver tray rested near the edge of the tub beneath drifting steam. Warmth lay across the marble floor and through the thick folded towels, waiting near the radiator. Quiet filled every corner of the room. The rain beyond the windows had softened further now, almost blending into the larger hush held within steam and candlelight. Warm water rested still within the porcelain bath, while lavender drifted faintly through the marble air. The mirror reflected only amber glow and pale moving steam. The room had grown very still. Warm steam and soft rain held the marble bath through the night. The Vanity Room. Rain moved softly against the tall bedroom windows, blurring the city lights beyond the glass into pale gold and silver shapes that trembled gently through the dark. A small lamp rested upon the vanity table beside a row of glass bottles and folded cotton cloths, its warm shade casting low amber light across the polished wood and mirror frame. The room carried the faint scent of powder, clean linen, and evening perfume, softened now by the late hour. Outside, rain drifted steadily through the quiet streets below, while indoors the lamp glow held the room close in warmth and stillness. Nothing remained hurried here. Near the vanity chair lay a silk robe folded loosely across the edge of the bed, where the blankets beneath it had already turned down softly for the night. The mirror above the table reflected only dim portions of the room now, softened by shadow and rain, darkness beyond the windows. Along the far wall, curtains rested half-drawn against the weather outside, their fabric moving only slightly whenever cool air brushed gently through the narrow opening near the glass. Evening had long since deepened into night, and the room had begun to settle into that quiet hour when every sound grows softer beneath rain and lamplight. The night remained still. A small dish upon the vanity held pearl-colored hairpins gathered in a loose circle beside a silver-handled brush. Their smooth surfaces caught the lamp glow faintly each time rain shifted against the windows and altered the reflections in the glass. One cotton cloth rested near a shallow bowl of warm water, its edges damp and softened by use, carrying the faint scent of rosewater and clean soap. The vanity table itself held traces of powder dust near the mirror frame, pale beneath the amber light. Outside, rain continued steadily along the darkened streets. The room gave small quiet sounds now and then, the soft rustle of curtain fabric near the open window, the faint tap of rain against the sill, the nearly silent settling of wood beneath warmth and late-night stillness. Upon the vanity, tiny bottles of cream and oil rested untouched beside the folded cloths and silver tray, their glass surfaces clouded gently by the humid warmth drifting through the room. The lamp beside them burned low enough now that shadows pooled softly in the corners of the bedroom. Nothing asked for attention except the quiet rhythm of rain. A trace of deep red color remained faintly upon the cotton cloth near the bowl, softened now into watercolor shades beneath warm water and rose-scented soap. The mirror reflected only softened movement and amber light, never sharp detail, as though the room itself had begun to blur gently around the edges with the passing hour. Along the vanity chair, silk fabric slipped in smooth folds beneath resting hands and gathered warmth from the room. The rain beyond the windows had settled into an even softer rhythm now, quiet and low. Beside the lamp, a small glass bottle stood uncapped upon the vanity, carrying the clean scent of lavender oil that drifted slowly into the room each time warmth from the lamp touched the glass. The fragrance mingled softly with rose water and rain-cooled air from the open window, creating something calm and familiar that settled naturally among the linens and curtains. Beyond the glass, the city had nearly disappeared into weather and darkness, leaving only distant, blurred lights beneath the rain. Indoors, the room remained wrapped in lamplight and stillness. The brush upon the silver tray held a few loose strands of dark hair, caught gently among the bristles, softened gold brown beneath the low amber glow. Nearby, folded cotton rounds rested neatly beside the shallow bowl, their edges slightly damp from warm water and soap. Every movement within the room had slowed now into quiet rituals repeated many evenings before this one, simple motions that belong naturally to late hours and softened light. Rain drifted steadily against the windows. Warmth lingered across the vanity chair and along the silk robe folded nearby upon the bed, where lamplight moved softly over the fabric in slow, shifting folds. The mirror no longer reflected the outside world, clearly now that darkness had deepened beyond the windows. Instead, it held only dim portions of the room itself, amber light, curtain shadows, pale cotton cloths, and the gentle movement of hands growing slower with the hour. The room had begun to feel smaller in the best way, held close between rain and warmth. Along the bedside table rested a closed jewelry case lined in cream velvet. Beside, a single candle burned low enough for wax to gather thickly around its wick. The flame moved gently whenever cool air drifted inward through the narrow opening near the rain-dark glass, though even that air had softened now beneath the warmth of blankets and lamp glow. The bed linens carried the faint scent of lavender and starch-clean cotton, turned down softly in preparation for rest. Outside, the rain continued through the sleeping city below. The last traces of makeup had faded now from the damp cloth resting beside the bowl, leaving only pale washes of color softened almost entirely away by warm water and soap. Skin beneath the lamplight appeared calm and bare against the dim mirror glow, free now from the brightness and sharper edges carried through earlier hours of evening. Silk sleeves brushed softly against polished wood as another folded cloth drifted quietly back onto the vanity tray. The room grew quieter still, and the rain was steady and warm and low against the windows. The lamp beside the vanity had dimmed slightly as the bulb warmed beneath its amber shade, turning the room softer now than before. Shadows gathered gently along the curtains and beneath the bed frame, while the mirror reflected only a faint golden wash where light met glass through drifting darkness. The silver brush remained beside the tray. The pearl-colored pins rested quietly within their shallow dish. Everything had settled into place for the night. The robe upon the bed had gathered warmth from the room itself, its smooth fabric resting in soft folds against the turned blankets and cool cotton sheets beneath. Rain moved slowly down the windows in long silver lines that bent the distant city lights into wavering shapes beyond the glass. Somewhere below, far beneath the apartment windows, the last sounds of evening traffic had nearly faded away entirely. Only rain remained now. Rain and lamplight and the quiet rituals of night. The candle beside the bed burned lower within its small pool of wax, while the lamp upon the vanity cast only enough glow to soften the room rather than light it fully. Cream jars and folded cloths blurred gently into shadow along the polished wood surface, their edges fading beneath warmth and late-night stillness. The mirror reflected almost nothing now except amber light and the slow movement of rain beyond the darkened windows. The night continued, quiet and deep. Warm cotton rested upon the vanity beside the shallow bowl of water, now gone still and cool. The scent of lavender remained faintly in the room, woven softly through silk fabric, bed linens, and the drifting air near the curtains. Rain crossed the windows in slow silver threads. The lamp glowed low beside the mirror. Nothing more remained to be done. The bed held its turned blankets open beneath the soft glow of the bedside candle. Curtains rested gently near the rain-dark glass. The silver brush and pearl-colored pins remained where they had rested all evening upon the vanity tray. Quiet filled the room from wall to wall. The rain beyond the windows had softened further now, almost blending into the larger hush of the sleeping city below. Amber light rested gently across the folded robe and smooth cotton sheets, waiting beneath the blankets. The mirror held only shadows and warm light. The room had grown very still. Warm lamplight rested softly upon the vanity and folded cloths. Rain crossed the tall, dark windows beyond the curtains and candle glow. The room remained quiet beneath silk, lavender, and the deep hush of night. The lamp burned low beside warm sheets and rain-dark window glass. That was tonight's visit to the Restful Night Library. If this story helped you relax, follow the podcast for more quiet nights and gentle sleep stories. You can also find Mira Heart's books on Amazon. Listen to the full audiobook catalog on an 11 reader. Subscribe to Night Rest Studio Calm on YouTube for the video versions. Until next time, rest well.